Peggy, first of all, congratulations on what I understand this is the 20th event?
Yes, it's kind of hard for me to believe, but yes, our 20th year, and it's been a great experience so far. Well, I've heard a comment from several attendees this year saying, you know, we wasn't sure maybe we would come this year, and, you know, things are kind of down in the companies and aviation industry and so forth. But they just as quickly said, but, you know, we thought this was the year we definitely needed to come. We needed to be here to interact with the others, get their energy revitalized, and knew it would be a positive experience.
Well, let's talk about the genesis of all this. Where did this start and why?
It actually started, I was a faculty member and administrator with Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, first on the Daytona Beach campus in the mid-'80s. And at that time, there were only about 5% of the whole student body that were women, and you'd walk into a classroom and maybe be one woman in the class. And we found out in doing exit interviews with the students, particularly the women students, that they didn't feel maybe as comfortable. Was this really a good choice for them and place for them to be? And it's the same experience when I got to the Prescott campus. So the idea kind of generated. Women's History Month was coming up in March. Maybe we ought to put together a day and a half conference, bring in some women who are in aviation in different fields, career areas, and put on this conference and just see, you know, how it went. And we had people like Gina Yeager, who had just a few years before flown around the world nonstop. We had a WASP from World War II, Dr. Shannon Lucid, an astronaut, some airline pilots. So it was a good mix of speakers. And we had about 150 people show up at that first event. And by the 5th year, we had over 500 attendees. We were now starting to have also exhibitor area was growing. We started with 5 tabletops in Prescott. Now we had actual booths. And people were saying, great conference to come to, but it's once a year. How do I join the organization? Well, there wasn't an organization. It was an annual conference that Parks College was putting on. But in putting together the planning committee for the 1996 conference, which was to be held in Minneapolis, that planning committee, and we discussed the possibilities of forming an organization, actually became the founding board of the organization, Women in Aviation International. And we announced it in '96. So this year is special, not just the 20th conference, but it's also the 15th year for the organization.
Cirrus Design's Vision SJ50 single-engine personal jet offers exceptional fuel efficiency, flexible seating for up to 7, advanced avionics, and all the Cirrus safety features you expect, including the Cirrus airframe parachute system. With its detailed design, the Cirrus Vision is technologically advanced, yet engineered to be simple to fly, to allow owner pilots more lifestyle pursuits than any other personal aircraft. Learn more about the Vision SJ50 at cirrusdesign.com.
Has the mission changed?
I don't think so. It's always been trying to encourage particularly young ladies, but young people, to go into aviation as a career, or even just to learn to fly, to help women who are already in the field of aviation, to help them, you know, move up in their careers, and networking and mentoring. And the third mission, and we don't talk about it a lot, is to educate the general public about women's contributions to aviation historically and currently. I think still sometimes in the general public's mind, if you were to hear the term women in aviation, the first name that pops into their mind is Amelia Earhart. And certainly she was accomplished and did a lot of great things, but she certainly wasn't the only one. So we wanted, you know, the word out there have been a lot of women involved in aviation since the early days and still continuing to contribute to the field.
Can you compare the atmosphere now versus what you encountered 20 years ago when you started these events?
I'd say some significant differences in the 20 years. But keep in mind, in the perspective that it was 1973 that the first woman was even hired by an airline, so that's one out of several thousand. And now that exceeds, you know, 6%. The numbers keep growing, and you see more and more women getting into management areas. You know, we've had FAA administrators too now who've been women. So I think just not saying, you know, we've been held down and you know, things are bad. Just by women, you know, doing the job, you know, being accomplished, moving up in their career and being visible, I think is helping tremendously. But I'd say overall for the industry, that's very open, very positive, and I think that's one of the reasons many of the exhibitors who are in the exhibit hall, who are here with their HR folks, they're looking to have women in their company, and they think this is a great place to find them.
What guidance would you give to your constituency now, especially going into an economy where competition for jobs is just going to be ferocious?
I think advice I would give to anyone, you know, always do your best job in whatever you know, position you're in now. Don't burn bridges, you know, always be positive, and take advantage of opportunities such as the Women in Aviation Conference, and there are other conventions and things too, to be in front of people, to make those face-to-face contacts. A lot of people are going to be mailing in or emailing in a resume, but if you've had that face-to-face contact, that can make all the difference in the world.
No, obviously the personal networking has been huge, and here, what a phenomenal opportunity.
Yeah, we had someone here one time a number of years ago, an editor for another aviation publication, and he said, this was the most spirited group I've ever seen. He said, you can oftentimes go to an aviation conference and you sit down at a luncheon or a banquet perhaps, and you're interacting, and everyone's kind of like one-upmanship. You know, well, I fly a Beech Bonanza, oh, but I fly the B-1 bomber. And it's not that way here. Yes, people are sharing what they do and so forth, but it's more in a friendly atmosphere, and how can we help you to get to your goal, what you want to do next. They want to be here because they want to interact with each other. It's kind of become like an annual reunion for some. And whenever there's a new attendee, we always try to identify them, and our folks make an effort to go up and introduce themselves, make them feel like they're a part of the organization or of the conference. And I think the attitude here is we want it to be positive. We want people to interact, and that's just is permeated, and we don't want any of the negativism.
You've heard of this thing called WAS, right? The Wide Area Augmentation System lets you fly GPS glide path approaches without relying on ground-based landing aids. No VOR, no ILS, no problem. Fact is, WAS is so smart, it even knows what you're going to say next time you need it, and don't have it on board. Wah, I want my WAS now! I was really crying there for a second.
For this specific event, what are your high points?
Oh, gosh. Several for this particular year. One, of course, is our special 20th anniversary, and that we're here, and I think very solid. Also, some of the tremendous speakers that we've had, particularly in the general sessions. We've had presidents of aviation companies. We had Craig Fuller, president of AOPA, this morning. We've had the CEO of Delta Airlines. We've also had CEO and presidents of AirTran Airways and UPS Airlines. So just that level of inclusion here this year that the industry maybe is recognizing us, and that's very nice. But the scholarships. I mean, our scholarship program is always a big highlight, and this year is no exception. Even though the final total this year may be a little less than last year, which is an all-time high, is still excellent. We're giving out 62 or 63 scholarships in the course of these 3 days, and that's tremendous. And to have some of these people to come back, and some of the past scholarship winners have now established their own scholarships. They may be for smaller dollar amounts. They may be $500 and not $30,000, but still, it's just, again, that spirit of we want to help, we want to be part of making this a good experience.
Where does the organization go from here?
Well, we're in the midst of a strategic plan right now, so we're looking at what we want to do in terms of membership growth and how to accomplish that. I think one area that's very important, well, it is very important to us, we want to continue and maybe even expand this effort. We work with colleges and universities with aviation programs, and I think we can do a better job of that with our chapter network, with other member benefits that we can provide. Also, we still tend to be known as a pilots group, and we do have a large percentage of our members who are pilots, so we want to do a better job of reaching out to let's say the air traffic controllers and the mechanics and the aeronautical engineers and the avionics techs. So some things we're looking forward to in the next several years.
And final question, and one of the 3 questions we've asked a number of people here on the floor. To the young woman looking at aviation with her head in the clouds and the stars in her eyes, what advice do you give?
Well, I've been in aviation now for almost 30 years, and as a faculty member in other positions, and this industry's always had the cycles and ups and downs and so forth. But I say if aviation is your passion, and it's what you really want to do, there are always opportunities out there. Make yourself visible, volunteer, be part of whether it's Women in Aviation or other aviation organizations. Be active, do your best, and go for your dreams, because the opportunities are there. And don't feel like just because the economy is not doing so well and some companies are laying off, continue to pursue your goal, and it'll happen.